that sound, right?
You, you've been knocked down, I got up again. In the corner, you're surrounded, no defenders. Oh, you've hid your fury and kept it in. But it's time now you ignite and turn to embers.
Time to outburst
You're like a phoenix,
and
you burst in
transform.
the fire. The burst and desire, you transform right up in a flash. You
It
spread
is time for your transformation. Matters not what you have walked through, where you have been. It's time to rise from up out of that ashes and transform and become everything that you were designed and created to be in this hour. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Michelle L. Forbes, and you are tuned into my story talk show. Thank you for coming and joining and sitting with us this afternoon. You know how we roll. Usually, we ask that you go ahead, link your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, your male cousin, your female cousin, your neighbor on the right, your neighbor on the left, your neighbor down the road, your co workers, everybody. Give them a call and tell them my story talk show is on. And this afternoon, we have the wonderful pleasure of sitting with none other than Pastor Keri Fraser. And we are delighted to have her here and for her to share her story, where her journey began and where she has walked the path and where she is today. Pastor Kerry, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. It is an honor. It is an honor to be here to share my story with
Amen.
your audience and love the opening song. I love that.
Thank you.
I'm Pastor Keri Fraser. First of all, I'm a woman and a woman of God, and I'm a
Yeah.
wife, a mother, a pastor, an author, a recording artist, a songwriter. I wear many, many, many different
Yeah.
hats. But I love each and every one of them. And at the core, I'm a worshiper. I'm a worshiper of God. I'm a servant of God. And I'm so honored that I get to spend this time with you today, and to just let you know about the one who changed my life forever.
Amen. 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 And it's a pleasure to have you here this
Thank you.
afternoon. As we start out, I'd like to ask you, you're an island girl,
Very
like
much so.
myself. Yes, from the island of
St. Thomas,
St.
U.S. Virgin
Thomas,
Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands. Yes.
Mhm.
And we would like to ask you, okay, as an island girl, what was life in the islands like
You know
growing up?
what? Growing up, I was very happy. I love the islands. I love the sun, the beaches, the close community. It was really great for me. It gave me a good foundation. And even just growing up in the church, it just allowed me to experience life on that level where I really understood quality of life versus quantity. Just really spending time with family and friends, and being introduced to Christ there. And being introduced to a church family that embraced me and helped me to grow. So being an island girl, I'm a forever island girl, right? I loved it. I loved living on the island until God gave me a different assignment, right? So I always say God is the only one that could get me out of my beloved island.
Wow, that's a strong saying.
Yes, only God.
Wow. So you are currently located where, Pastor
I
Kerry?
am currently located in Georgia, and I have the privilege of being on assignment here with my husband and having the opportunity to lead a multicultural group of believers who I love dearly. Some of them are watching. So, hello, Abundant Rain
Wow.
Empowerment Church.
Wow. 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 And you said in as you were answering our first question that only God could have gotten you out of the islands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What
Only God.
was that like in terms of moving you? Because the islands, from as you shared passionately about, is like the islands just all consumed you. Like, this is me, God.
Yeah, I'm
You
an
know,
island girl
the
for real.
right place to be born.
It was the right place for me. It was the
Yeah.
right place for me. But you know something, when God gives us an assignment, it's really interesting. You know, I
Yeah.
tend to tell people that so many times we say, "I'll say yes to your will and to your way." We sing it, we
Yes.
say it, we declare it. It
Yes.
sounds good when we're preaching it, but
Yes.
when God actually gives you the assignment, you're like, "What? Not that." And
Yes.
I will be honest. I came on assignment kicking and screaming. And that's the honest truth. You know, my husband, he saw the vision. He was much more clear on the vision than I was, you know. And so it really took a lot for me as a wife to be able to acknowledge that he was seeing something that I was not seeing, you know, and I had to trust, you know, the God in the man that I loved.
Mm.
You know, I had to
So,
trust God in the man that I loved, to say yes to God, you know.
wow. Wow. So he
Yeah.
received the word
Yes.
whilst you, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you transitioned, you still hadn't received anything in your spirit at that time? Or
No, no. And you know, the funny thing about it is that when we are so tied to something, it's
ah,
difficult to hear God. That's the truth.
yeah.
You know, there are times that our voice can become louder than the voice of God because of what we love, because of what we are tied to, because of our desire. You know, sometimes, you know, my mother likes to say, we go down in prayer with our answer already. So
Wow, I've never heard it put like that before.
we go down in prayer with our answer
Yeah,
already. And so,
yeah.
you know, I don't know how much I would have been open to hear God say to move,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Yes.
And so, you know, like I said, when we say, you know, yes to God and he gives us the assignment, he will test your yes. You know, he will test that yes to see if you really are going to do what he has assigned for you to do. And so, no, I didn't hear, but I trusted that the man that I married is a man of God and that he heard God clearly. And through the years, I started to understand why. You know, that's the thing about obedience. You know, our obedience to God does not always come with a full understanding right at the beginning. Sometimes the understanding and the revelation of that assignment unfolds. And so I had to learn to submit. And, you know, someone that's listening, yes, yes, I'm telling you, this is my story. Because sometimes people will give you the impression that when God gives you an assignment, you're just like, oh, yes, Lord, I'll do it. No, I was kicking, I was screaming. I was just like, I don't want to, I don't want to leave, I don't want to do it. And every time, I'm telling you, every time something went wrong, it was like, you see, that must be a sign. So
Might
let
I
me help
ask what was,
somebody right now today. You know, this is the truth.
wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
What was his response when you
Who?
would come in like that? What was his response? Like, that's a sign.
Who? God or my husband?
Yes, your husband. What was that? What was his response?
Because I don't know what God was having a lot of patience with me.
Wow.
But you know, one of the things that my husband has is a boatload of patience. He has a lot of patience with me.
Okay.
And he was very clear that he had heard from God. You know, that's probably the key thing. He was very clear.
Yes.
And he was very patient to allow me to go through my own process, you know,
Wow.
to go through my own process. He made the vision clear. You know, he understood that it was difficult for me.
Yeah.
And he was not swayed by my emotions, you see.
Okay.
So he understood that it wasn't just you know, his desire but it was an assignment from God. And
Yeah.
so my emotions as a wife
Did
wasn't
not move
enough
him.
to sway him,
Mm.
to change his mind from what God had spoken. And I'm glad that
Yes.
I just have the opportunity to do ministry with someone who is so focused on obeying God, and allowing me to come to in my own journey to that obedience, So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Wow. Now,
right.
did I hear you right when you said over the years as it became clear to you? Did I hear you right?
Over the years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You heard me right. You heard me right. I learned a lot about obedience
Mm.
in that journey. Obedience to God, I learned a lot about obedience, and here's some of the things I learned in that season of my life is that partial obedience is still disobedience.
Wow.
I
Mm.
learned that delayed obedience is
Say
still
that again.
disobedience.
Say that again, Pastor Kerry.
I will say it again for the people in the back row.
Yep.
Listen,
Yep.
partial obedience is still disobedience, and
Mm.
delayed obedience is still disobedience.
Yep.
And one of the things that I also learned in that season of my life is that we have to have obedience with the right attitude, because we can do what God told us to do and still have a wrong attitude about it. And
Yes.
that's some of the things that I had to
Yes.
learn
Wow.
in that journey, because even at one point when I finally said, okay, I'm going to obey what God is telling me to do, I didn't have the right attitude with it.
Wow.
So there were a lot of things that I learned in obedience. But I also learned something too. I also learned not just about my obedience to God, but what it truly means when we say we are um, joined in covenant to a person. you know
Yes.
um I said this just today. I said that sometimes we follow God up to the point where we disagree with what God is saying. It's
Mm.
easy to say I'm following God, I'm humble, I'm doing what God says, until he tells you something that you don't want to do. And
Yes.
it's the same thing I found in my years of marriage,
Yes.
um, that I had to learn what it was like when I didn't agree. And I had to know, is God speaking?
Mm.
And if God is speaking, my obligation is to obey God. And even when that made me uncomfortable, I was willing to go through that journey. So, maybe it helps somebody, because, sometimes people see us doing the assignment of God and they just think that God spoke to us and we just got up and ran with it. But
Yes.
sometimes it's a process, sometimes it's a
Yes.
process, and that, yes, is costly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also speaks to me that not only was your husband patient with you, but God was patient with you.
Very patient. Very patient with me. Yeah.
It almost appears as though both your husband and God was in partnership working.
Oh, they had a lot of work to do, I could tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, did they work.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it was key that you find your path
Yes. Yes.
on your
That
own,
was the key.
not being forced, not being cajoled,
Hmm.
but you find your path in your own time. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it speaks to me as well, Pastor Kerry, that
Mm.
in you yielding, it really didn't have so much to do with you.
Mm.
It's about the lives, even as you greeted the church tonight. It was about them,
Yes.
that
Yes.
set of people, and those who are still on their way coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you
That's
imagine
funny.
you still back? Can you imagine you still back in the islands? And
Yes.
these people are here and they're waiting, and like, because these are your tribe. These are your people to whom he has called.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Pastor Kerry.
Yeah, I the thing about our obedience is that, like you said, we make it so much about us. I don't want to do that. I don't like that. I don't want that assignment. We make it so much about us. but we don't always think about the other side of our obedience. What's on the other side of my yes?
Yes.
When I say yes to God, and that's why it took some years, because
Yes.
after seeing the impact,
Mm.
I had an opportunity to see what my obedience was doing in terms of impacting the lives of other people.
Wow.
And then it also it helped me to see that I was needed. I was necessary. I was waited on. Somebody was waiting on me.
Wow.
you know
Wow.
and
Wow.
that makes a difference. And to somebody that's watching
Yes.
today, you know, I want you to learn from that. Somebody is waiting, somebody needs what you're carrying.
Yes.
It's
Mm.
it's like a person that's on the
Mm.
side of the road, and they ran out of gas, and they're
Mm.
stuck, and they're
Yes.
waiting on you to come, with that gas that they need to get to
Yes.
where they need to get to. And I had to realize that somebody was waiting on my yes.
Yes.
Somebody appreciated my yes, but it took a while. Thank you all for waiting.
Wow. Yes, indeed. Wow. You said that it came to a point where you saw
Mm.
what event or what happened or what life that caused the light bulb to go off within you as you
you
were on
know
that journey.
so many lies, so many lies. Watching the transformation that took place in people's lives, watching them step into their ministry.
Mm.
Sometimes it took years for people to come back and say,
Yes.
Pastor Keri, this word that you spoke to me, and it was like, really?
Wow.
Wow. So it took some time to see the impact. But I realized that God impacts me first. He had to do something in me first so
Yes.
that I could be available to impact other people. And
Yes.
sometimes in life, we are so busy rushing to make an impact into nations that we forget that the impact has to happen in us first.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a work in me first. He had to teach me something, so that
Yeah.
even when I encountered the people that I would minister to, I could say, I understand. When people are like, I don't know if God has called me to do this, I don't know, how I feel about this assignment God has given, I was able to say, I've been there. I know what
Yes.
you're going through, and let me help you through that season. So nothing is wasted with God. Nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you would have had to say yes to what he's have inside of you, because yes, you were in worship ministry back
Yes.
in the Caribbean, but then he was calling you up higher, calling you to a greater level of responsibility and
Yes.
placing within the
Yeah.
kingdom, and you had to first look at that and say, okay, God, I'm going to say yes to this. I
Yes.
Even though I may not see it or feel it, but I'm going to say yes to it.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
almost like saying yes without fully knowing the question, fully knowing the assignment, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but just know that when we say yes to God, He will never lead us into anything other than goodness.
Ah,
Mm.
sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
His plans are
Sweet.
great for us.
Just know that when you say yes to God, He will never lead you into anything that is not goodness.
Mm.
Wow. That's
Yes.
sweet. That is sweet. Now, Pastor Keri, you are pastor,
Yes.
you are entrepreneur, you're CEO, you are TV talk show host, you
Yes.
are gospel music artist with several awards behind your name,
Thank you.
and accolades and accolades. Now, as I was going through the day yesterday, my mind began to think, and I'm like, I would have heard of persons in their marriage relationship before. Both started out humble beginnings,
Hmm.
but as one began to rise, it somehow had the marriage kind of lopsided.
Yes.
How did you got your advancement affect your life? Like, what was it before? How did it impact your marriage and where you're at today?
That's a really great question. Because I often say to people that when God chooses your spouse, God knows the past, the present, the future.
Yes, he does.
When we choose our spouse, we may choose the person based on what we're dealing with at the present. This is what I like right now. This is what I'm dealing with right now. And we may make the choice based on limited information. But when God chooses your spouse, he knows the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old, the 50-year-old you. And so he chooses someone that can navigate the seasons of your life, right? But I will say this. There's an incident that happened many, many, many years ago before I was married to my beloved husband. And it spoke volumes to me. We were in college together, and I had a big test to take. I was nervous. I was really nervous. I was very nervous about it. Big test to take. But the college rooms, the classrooms, the doors had kind of like a little window in them.
Yes.
And I will never forget this. And it spoke so much volumes to me because my husband, who was not my husband at the time, we were just dating at the time. And he knew how nervous I was. He knew that this test meant a lot. He knew that I had to pass this test. And he did something that I didn't ask him to do, but he did it, and it just blew my mind. He stood outside of the door of that classroom. Just, hey, love makes you do a lot of things, right? But I'm sitting in the classroom. I look up out of the window of the door, and he's standing across the hallway. And anytime I look up, he would just give me the thumbs up. He stood outside the entire test time. At one point, I think he got tired. He got a chair and he sat where I could see him.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, someone who can stand in a place where nobody else can see them but me, and make sure that I know that they are there for me, that they have me, that they are cheering me on, that they want me to succeed. That is the person that I want in my life.
Yeah.
And he has been consistent with that. That wasn't just something that happened in college. In so many of the times of my life, whether I'm on stage receiving an award, whether I'm in the recording studio, whether I'm doing an interview, he's somewhere.
Wow.
Maybe other people can't see him, but he's somewhere where I can see him. And he always lets me know, I got your back. You can do this. And it just spoke volumes to me. When you do what I do, it is so important to be connected to someone who doesn't see it as a competition. When you do what I do, it is so important that competition doesn't cloud, the ministry. So that is something that I think is very important for people to understand, because sometimes when you start out, you don't really realize how big things are going to become.
Yes.
At the time when we got married, this year we'll celebrate 30 years of marriage. And at the time that we got married, I don't think any of us really understood that this is what our life would be like.
Yes.
That our married life would take us to different nations of the world and would cause us to impact people all over the globe and write books and music and do all of this. We didn't know, but we always had a sense of, I've got you. If no one else will cheer you on, I would go to places and I would sing, and he would be the only person standing in the church clapping for me. If no one else stood up, he would stand up and cheer me and he has been consistent in that way for 30 years. And I'm telling you, I'm so tremendously blessed. I really am. I
Yeah.
really
So you said that sometimes you'll go to places and he'll be the only one. So usually you guys travel together whenever you have an assignment or
We
he has an
travel
assignment.
together sometimes, as much as our schedule allows us to travel together, we do.
Yes.
But one of the things that we do for sure is, even if my husband does not travel with me physically, he always blesses me
Okay.
and
Before you
sends me
go.
out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this. He lets me know that I'm covered, that I'm cared for. So if I'm going somewhere to preach or going somewhere to sing, whether he's physically with me or not, he will pray and he will bless me, and he will, say, you have the word of the Lord. He will speak over my life so that I can minister to others. That's the thing. The person who's ministering to other people needs someone that's pouring
To
into them.
minister. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Now, I noted you said that your married life would have taken you both to countries and to places that at the start you never would have thought that you both would have reached into these places and on these platforms. So, outside of your marriage life, so you have marriage life and ministry together.
Yes.
So it just by the mere fact that you mentioned that, that means you have life outside of your marriage and your husband have life outside of your marriage, ministries or callings. If that's so, as we would have seen, like especially yourself in the music industry,
Hmm.
on your husband's side of it, how, I'm sorry that he's not here this afternoon, as the shift would have taken place, but how does both of you hold, okay, this is that which God has called me to, and this is that which God has called me to, and then this is what God has called us to?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How does the balance, how does that work and still keep everything getting the focus and the attention that is needed for every assignment?
Yeah, yeah. It certainly takes a lot of prayer and
Okay.
forgiveness. It takes a lot of forgiveness. um, but one of the things that has guided me a lot is in Genesis chapter 2, when the Bible speaks about the man and the woman, and the two became one. And I one of the things that the Lord spoke to me concerning my life is that so many times we look at math. you know I know you don't want math today, but math. All right.
Yeah.
And so
It's
many
okay.
times
It's my favorite subject. It's okay.
right, we look at math and we say, a half and a half makes a whole.
Yeah.
Or of two, fractions come together to make one, but God
Yes.
looked at it as two becoming one. And so it really requires that two individuals who are complete in Christ
Mm.
become one. And so when I take the time to get an understanding of who God created me to be outside of marriage, who God created Keri to be, what is my assignment? What am I uniquely designed to
Wow.
fulfill in the earth? Then I am in a better position to connect with someone else.
Mm.
So many times we expect our spouse to complete us, and that's not scriptural.
No.
They can complement us, but they cannot complete us, because we are complete in Christ. And so it took me understanding who I am, who God made me to be. What assignment did He make me specifically to fulfill? Why did you create me to be here in 2022? There's a reason you needed me here. And
Yes.
so once the two of us understood our individual assignments and responsibilities to God, then we were able to come together. And then we are both submitted to God, and we are able to come together and see what the Lord is speaking for us to do together, so that we don't lose ourselves in the
Mm.
marriage. Sometimes
Mm.
in marriage people lose themselves. They
Yes.
don't even know what God has created them to do as an individual. So we didn't want to lose ourselves. It was important for us to understand what God had called us to do.
Amen. And this was on both sides. Both you
Both
didn't want to
sides.
lose.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't
Wow.
want him to lose it. I don't want him to
Himself
lose what God has
either.
called him to do either.
Because
Right.
that would weaken the marriage, the
Abs-
wholeness of the marriage.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. So we know, okay, it's two different individuals, two different
Yes.
backgrounds,
Yes.
of their own each calling,
Hmm.
would have come together. There would be occasions where the togetherness would have been tested.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
How, if you could share what was that like on some of the occasions, and
Mm.
how did you approach it? How did he approach it? How did you two together approach it? On
Oh,
cases where it seems as though it was really going to threaten, but then somewhere, somehow, there was a shift.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. One of the things that I realized that it's very important for us to understand what happens in our generations,
Yes.
generational patterns. Um, we both had to take time to see certain things that we could identify in our generations that were a threat to what we were trying to build.
Mm.
And I'll give just an example.
Yes, please.
Um, I often say that my husband entered marriage with a mindset of this is forever. I had seen so much divorce that
Wow.
I entered marriage looking for an exit sign.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
It's the
Talk
truth.
about the backgrounds.
It's the truth. I mean, you said
Yeah.
you wanted my story, so
Yes.
so
Thank
I
you.
entered in with a totally different mindset. I
Yes.
love you and all of that, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't
Just
work.
in case. Just
Just
in
in
case.
case. You know how you enter a building and the minute you enter, you're like, let me see if I know where all the exit signs are just in case I gotta
Just in
leave
case.
quickly. And
Yeah.
so we definitely entered marriage with a different mindset.
Mm.
Different mindset. It took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of declaring the word. It took understanding that, wait a minute, this is a pattern, and you have an opportunity to
Right.
break that cycle and create a different cycle, or
Yes.
you can continue a cycle that is not godly. And
Wow.
so we had to talk about it, we had to discuss it. So we both have taken time to say, what are things in our generations, in our families, that you know this could really destroy what we're trying to build. And then we counteract it with prayer. We counteract it with the word. We have a diligent guard. If we even see anything that looks like it wants to bring us into that cycle, we come together and we fight against that. We don't fight each other. We fight against that thing that's trying to
Together.
destroy what we are trying to build. You know,
Together.
Yes, because a lot of times in marriage, people fight each other instead of using their energy to fight the thing that is trying
Yes.
to destroy them. And we
Yes.
wanted to create a different cycle. We wanted to create
Mm.
something that our children could look at and say, wow, this is what marriage should be like. So we wanted them to see that even when the storms come, even when it becomes difficult, you're going to weather the storms together, and you're going
Yes.
to use the word of God to bring healing and wholeness so that the next generation has an opportunity to carry on something
Mm.
that's good you know
Come on.
so that was like one example of just an area where I
Yes.
knew that we definitely had to work on that. When the storm comes, you don't jump ship. You
Mm.
don't jump ship.
Mm.
Yeah.
What do you say? As you were speaking, what I saw is some couples where, okay, that is your background, those are your demons, you deal with them, and these are mine, and I will deal with them, and then we can come back together. Then we can do us. But you deal with you because that's your baggage, and
Yes.
I deal with me because this is my baggage,
Mm,
and then we can come together and sort it out.
mm.
What
Well,
would your advice be to couples as such?
I think there's so much power in unity. You know, the Bible tells us that one can chase 1,000,
Mm.
two could put 10,000 to flight. So it's not so much this is your stuff from your family, you deal with it. This is my stuff from my family, I deal with that. The fact is, when we come together in that covenant relationship, the power that we have, it's enough for us to fight those things together. And here's the thing: whether it's coming from my side of the family or his side of the family, it's trying to destroy what we are trying to build. So why would I just say, you fight yours and I'll fight mine? No, together.
Yeah.
Together, we are fighting for the will of God in our marriage to be seen. Because here's the thing: marriage is such an example to people of the relationship with God, Christ, and the church.
Yeah.
I know we've made marriage all about, I love you, you love me. But even the Bible shows us that this is an example of how
Yeah.
Christ loved the church. So I wanted our marriage to be an example. I did not know how.
Mm.
I know what I wanted. I didn't know how. But I realized that when we were coming up, people spoke to us about getting married. They didn't necessarily tell us how to have a happy and healthy marriage.
Come
And so
on.
along the way, we learned, we grew, we made mistakes, we figured things out, and we made a commitment as a married couple that we did not want other people to go through what we went through. So if we have the wisdom that we could share with people, we would share it. And so
Yes.
that's one of the areas that my husband and I love. We love to speak to people about marriage, because somebody needs to know that there are good marriages out there, that it
Yes.
is possible, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to end in divorce or separation.
Well, here's the thing. People look at divorce, and it's a hurtful and it's a difficult thing. But
Yes.
sometimes people don't realize being married and being unhappy is difficult as well.
Yes.
So, just because you stayed married doesn't mean you're happy or that it's healthy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Say that again. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What would your advice be as we're on this Valentine weekend?
Mm,
Guys, you would have made a shift as tomorrow is Valentine's Day, where we're
okay.
looking yes, we're looking at marriage, which is the ultimate relationship that God designed and orchestrated for us as men and women. What would you say to ladies, to men like that who may be in a situation where they are not happy?
Mm.
Um, what would your advice be based on your experience and what you know that can happen, but also being practical? It's dependent upon your unique case. What would your advice to be?
You know, when I was getting married, I'll never forget. A woman of God gave me a piece of advice that was, I thought it was really helpful, and I'll give you little pieces that I gleaned from different people. But
Mm.
one thing she said, Keri, if you want to put your stove in your living room and cook in your living room and it makes you happy, do it. I'm like, what? But what she was saying, don't do it, don't try it. What she was saying was that, you know, every marriage is different. And
Yeah,
and many times we miss out on being happy because we're trying to pattern our marriages off of someone else's. And comparison will steal your joy every time.
come on.
So you have to know what works for you. You have to understand that if this is the thing that makes us happy, this is what we're going to go with.
Yes.
Many times people approach marriage in terms of advice by saying, you know, you should do X, Y, Z, but maybe that doesn't work for you. And
Yeah.
so you're unhappy trying to fit into a mold that wasn't designed for you. Prophet and I had to learn that we had to make it work for us. We're
Mm.
we're busy, we're on the go, we're traveling, we're doing different things, and we had to find what works for us, right? So that's
Mm.
one thing I would say. A
Yeah.
piece of advice that my mother gave to me, and that has carried us through our marriage. She said, Keri, argue like adults. She said, argue like
Oh,
adults.
did you ask her to break that down for you?
Oh yes, oh yes. And
Okay.
you know
All
what?
right.
One of the things that we learned about it is that we, even if we disagree on something, there are
Yes.
boundaries. There are lines we will not cross. There are certain
Okay.
things we will not say. There are certain things we will not do. Doesn't matter how angry you are. We're not
Okay.
going to do it. And I think that sometimes that helps because, sometimes you can say things that causes some serious damage, and just
And you,
because you're
you cannot
angry, it
unsay
doesn't,
it.
yeah, it doesn't give you a license because you're angry to
Mm.
just get out of character. Because one of the things I have to remember is he is a man of God.
Mm.
He's God's child. I am God's child. And so we have
Yes.
to respect each other as such, right? So
Yes.
those are certain things that I've loved. One thing that I would say is be consistent. I've said this before, that one of the things that I love about my husband is if there is something that he's responsible for doing, it doesn't matter if he's angry. It doesn't matter if we have a disagreement. I love that. It basically, if he brings my tea every morning, it does not matter if we had a disagreement. He's going to bring my tea. It's just as simple. So there are
Okay.
certain things that I think we just keep ourselves from going too far in a certain direction. Um,
Mhm.
so I would say be intentional. Oh, that's what Prophet and I are doing. Starting last year, I think it was, we started saying we're going to be intentional about doing things together, about trying new things, about because you don't want to get dull and bored
Yes.
in
Yeah.
marriage.
Not at all.
Not at
No.
all.
You
Not
need
at
to keep
all,
it
right?
spiced. Keep it spicy.
Yeah, you don't want things to be so dull and
Yeah.
boring and predictable and
Yeah.
things like that. So we try to be very intentional about trying new things and just doing things that we enjoy, and just things like that. Not if you don't like flowers, like don't go and be like, okay, let me get flowers because that's what everybody thinks they should do on Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Do
no.
what makes you
Yeah.
happy, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I ask, what is one of the new things that you both of you would have decided, okay, this is something we've never done before, but we're gonna try it.
Let me see one that I can say on camera. Let me think. What
Wow.
okay, I'm sorry.
No
Let
problem.
me, hey, oh my God. So let me try to find a really nice one. So one of the things that we did, oh God, this was a wonderful thing that we did. We went out and we chartered a boat, and we had a sunset cruise, just the two of us and the captain. We took a picnic basket and
Yeah.
just because I love the water, and so
Yeah.
we took the time to just do something different. Instead of,
Yeah.
we go to restaurants and go to dinner, but this time we were just on our own private boat, and
Yes.
had a wonderful time watching the moonlight, talking, listening to music. It was just beautiful, and that was something we had not done. Just
Wow.
two of us, on the
Yeah.
boat together.
Yeah.
So that
No
was.
children. No
Oh,
children.
oh, what?
I love that response.
Oh my God! Sorry.
Wow, just the two of us.
Right, just the two
Well,
of
I see one of the sisters saying, Prince Family Walters, I'm paging you, hon. I'm paging you. Just in case you don't have any ideas, here's one. And that's a fellow islander. Yep. Yep.
We are very intentional about we love to eat dinner together. So if there's a restaurant that we've never tried, and let's try this, so we try to be intentional so that we don't fall into the same routine all the
Over,
time.
over,
Yeah.
over. Wow. That is wonderful. Wow. Mm. Would you have done it any different, Pastor Keri? And before you answer that, as you sat in that test room and you saw this young man, which you guys didn't, it wasn't fiance state as yet. So there was no, will you marry me? Um, what went through your mind in terms of, hmm, like, did you make a decision there
Oh no.
at that age that, okay, I think this is the man that I want to spend, well, if not the rest of my life, most of the years of my life with? Like, there at that moment, did you have that eureka moment that this is a man of value?
No. No.
Okay.
Um no. Listen,
How,
you're
how old were
dealing
you?
with ooh, ooh,
No, that time, not no, not no. How old were you at that time?
let's just say I was in college. People know how to
Okay.
do math really well. They're gonna start adding 30 years to no, 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 no. Oh,
Okay, all right,
I was in
okay,
but
understood.
let me say let me say this.
Yeah.
You're talking to a person who did not know what they wanted. You're
Oh,
talking to a person who had no idea what good was. You're
mm,
talking to someone who could not see beyond the present.
wow.
So I don't feel like I approached it in that way of this is, you know, listen, I tell people all the time, I don't play the lottery because there's no way that I could get there's no way I could be this blessed like that twice. I mean, when I married Prophet, God knew my future. I
Wow.
didn't go into it with the understanding. I didn't even know what I
Yes.
was I didn't even know what I was stepping into. I was young and I didn't understand fully what I was stepping into. And
Yeah.
there are just times in your life that God allows you to step into goodness even when you don't even know it's good.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think I had that. It took years
Yes.
for me to realize, what I had and to treasure it and to value it. I remembered when we were getting married and the pastor was praying over us and he said, this marriage will be an example to many. I can remember that statement. We were kneeling down and the pastor was praying over us at the wedding ceremony. And when he said that, in my little mind, I'm thinking, what? An example to many? What is he talking about? I didn't know. I didn't know what I was getting into. I'm just
Mhm.
grateful that God covers us when we
Yes.
don't have the sense enough to fully understand his plan. I'm glad that God is patient enough with us and he causes us to step into wonderful things when we don't even have the understanding of what we're stepping into. When I tell you I'm tremendously blessed, it is not because I knew the right choice to make.
Wow.
I didn't. And let me just say this for those of you out there who just love all this Valentine stuff. My wedding happened in 15 minutes, okay? I don't think we had 10 people present. Um, I
Pastor
don't
Kerry, you know you can't just say that and leave it there, right? You have to elaborate just a bit, like 15-minute wedding.
I
And it wasn't in a judge's courtroom.
no, it was at my church. It was in my church with my pastor, and I don't think there were 10 people present, including the wedding party. And yeah, and we got married, and it in 50. I remember thinking, wow, 15 minutes, and I'm married for life. so so for
Wow,
those
wow.
of you, listen, I would not change that because let
Will
me
not
tell you
change that
something.
15 minutes.
I wouldn't change it because something, for many people, they spend so much time, energy, money into that
Mm,
one day.
wow.
and don't invest any time, energy, money into the marriage. We are
Mm.
obsessed with weddings. Now, listen, I'm
Yes.
not telling you don't have your big fancy wedding. Do whatever works for you. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that I think we need to be careful about being so concerned about I mean, people plan for years for that one day. I
Yeah.
mean, some people from the time they're young, they can tell you their
Yeah.
wedding colors, their this, their that, the wedding, but we do not properly prepare ourselves for marriage.
For the
Marriage is
years,
a lot of work.
for the years that come
For
after,
years.
comparing to the one day.
Marriage is a
Mm.
lot of work. Even when both of you love God, both of you are saved, both of you love each other, marriage is a lot of work. And I think that so many times we put that work into a wedding
Yeah.
ceremony,
Yeah.
and then we don't have enough to sustain a marriage.
Mm.
So yes, there were less than 10 people at my wedding. The wedding was finished in 15 minutes. I was married. But
Wow.
this year will be 30 years because we were committed
Mm.
to investing in the marriage. That's
Yeah.
what was important for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing as you were sharing how when you shared just now, like you were talking to somebody who didn't know what she wanted, who didn't have any idea what the magnitude of what marriage holds. But as you were sharing that, what it blew up in my mind is how God would have taken you from there along the path to the present, know that He can use you to minister into whose life? Married couple's life, or
Amen.
other folks who's looking to get married, from
Yes,
not
yes.
having a clue and coming in with a back door in mind, just in case.
Just in case.
And now He's using you to impact and influence the lives of other married couples and
Mm,
soon to be married couples. That's powerful.
wow. God
That's
is faithful.
powerful. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. So, Pastor Kara, we're coming close to the hour. I'd like for you to share, like, what are you presently working on, and
Mhm.
how the folks could get a hold of you to get to, just in case they need a speaker or they need for you to come and minister in song at their conference, whatever the capacity, or they need a life coach, whatever the capacity to which they would need. How can they get in touch with you, and what are you working on currently that they can look forward to coming out from you?
Definitely you can connect with me. My website is www.kerifraser.com, and you can connect with me on Instagram at I am Keri Fraser, right?
Yes.
And of course on Facebook, Keri Fraser Official. Um, what am I working on? We are still doing our television show. It airs every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. It's called Tea with Pastor Keri.
Yes.
So that show is just my joy, my heart. I started out just doing devotions with God and decided to share it with other people. It became a book, and then a television show. I mean, that's to let somebody know the thing that you start that may seem insignificant or small seed. You don't
Wow.
know where God is going to take it when you
Come
submit it
on.
to Him.
Mm.
We are working on new music. Of course, my single Grace is
Yes.
and doing very well. And I'm
Yes.
grateful to God for that because that was the message that He gave to me, that people were overwhelmed by so many different things in the last few years. And He wanted us to be overwhelmed by His grace,
Hallelujah.
His
Yes.
grace, His love toward us. And we're working on new music. I can't say too much about it right now, but we are working on some new
Absolutely.
music for this year. I am super excited about that.
Wow.
Um, and then my husband and I just teaming up together to speak, to declare the word of the Lord. The Lord has given us a global assignment, a global mandate, and we are
Yeah.
fulfilling that by God's grace. So,
Yeah.
whatever I'm working on is whatever God has for me to do.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
learned how to say yes to God.
Mm.
I've learned how to
Wow.
say yes to Him. So I'm excited about the many things and the things that I don't know about yet.
Is yet. Yes. That
Things I
is.
have no idea. I can tell you sometimes I go into a year, have no idea that I'm going to be recording, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
excited about even the things I don't know as yet. So yeah.
Yeah. And even the talk show
Yeah.
is testimony of what you just said, because it just started out with a devotional and
Yes.
then a book
My
and then a
time with
talk
God.
show. Like,
Yes.
wow. Well,
Yeah.
from your time with God.
from my time with
And
God.
then
And
he just opened you up to the world and said, eat, feast.
yes,
Wow.
yes. And I'm excited about what God is doing in the lives of so many of the up and coming preachers, people that I've
Yes.
poured into for years. I get
Wow.
to kind of sit back and be that proud mom and just watch them take the world by force. So I'm super excited to see that as well.
Wow, wow, wow. My heart is overjoyed. Wow, wow, wow. I can just imagine what that have been like. And even for them to
Yes.
have you sit there and see them. It's
Yeah.
like, hmm, that you would have taken that time to pour into them all the time that you would have. And here they are in that moment when they're given the opportunity to take the stage. It is
Yes.
amazing. It is really awesome. Thank you, Pastor Kerry, for being here. Um, Before you go, I'd like for you to share to married couples where
Mm.
they're at in terms of their challenges, for those who is on top of the world presently, and for those who are looking to go into. If you could just leave a word of nugget for each three categories.
The word that I feel in my spirit right now is a simple phrase in the Bible that says, "Have faith in God." Sometimes we don't apply faith to marriage. And for that person that says, "I'm going through a dry season, a dark time," have faith in God. God is able to turn situations around.
Yes.
God is able to change the hearts and minds of people when they submit to Him, and so I would say to have faith, believe. Marriage is something that God desires and God designed. And so, if we're going to get instruction, allow God to
Mm,
speak into your marriage. Pray for your spouse. Pray with your spouse. Communicate with each other. Sometimes it's easy for us to talk to all everybody else, but try to
mm,
be intentional about
mm.
speaking with your spouse, about learning their love language, and the way that they can feel love from you and express to them what you need. Many times we're not fully honest about our needs. So I would
Yeah.
say to married couples, whichever state you find yourself in, work on you. A
Wow.
lot of times we go to God asking him to work on our spouse, but allow God to work on you. Take the time for God to work on you, to deal with your issues, and you'll see a major turnaround when your focus comes off of that other person
And
to
come
you.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
And you'd say the same for those who are looking to go in marriage. Approach it with faith, through faith, with faith.
Approach it with faith. Don't allow loneliness to make you desperate. You know,
Ah, whew.
yeah. Don't allow loneliness to make you desperate and make you make decisions that cause you to step out of the will of God. Because here's the truth: there are people who are married and lonely. So the fact is, marriage is not going to cure your loneliness.
Yeah.
See, so one of the things that you have to do is, a lot of times we don't take advantage of our waiting season. So even though we're waiting to get married, we're
Mm-hmm.
so focused on getting married that we're not doing anything with the waiting season, you know.
Mm,
And
mm,
so then even when we are married, we find that we were not prepared.
mm.
So if you're waiting and you're believing God for a spouse, take that time to work on you. Many times
Awesome.
people want to get married, but they're really not prepared for marriage, for the
Mm.
work
That
and the
is in.
compromise and
Yep.
all the
Yep.
things that come with it.
Yep. Yep. The whole package, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the lovely, the wonderful, everything comes along with it.
Yeah.
Pastor Kerry, thank you so much for being here. Wow. Um, Minister Case, you've earlier paged her husband, and he actually came on and said,
Those are my people. Hello.
wow, God bless you, Minister Shemley. God bless you. God bless you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Teresa, Charlene, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon, for coming. Please be sure, as I put the information for contact for Pastor Kerry below the video on YouTube and above the video on Facebook, please do go ahead. She has written several books. Do go ahead and connect with her. Just type in Keri Fraser in Amazon and you'll see her books come up. Go ahead and connect and glean from her life, glean from the legacy that she's already building and making an impact and an influence here in this earth. And tune into her talk show. I've gone on the website and I've tuned into the talk show. It's a
Thank
blessing.
you. Thank you.
Please do go ahead. God bless you. Thank you
Yes.
for joining us. God bless you, Pastor Kerry. Thank you
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me.
Yep. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place, here on my Story Talk Show at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a wonderful rest